Hello and welcome to another episode of the Interstellar Business Show. I'm your host, Andrew Ball, and I'll be accompanying you on your journey of growing, working, and living smarter as you attempt to take your business an interstellar leap forward so you can start working less and living more. And with the big central theme of the Interstellar Business Show of helping you work less and live more as a business owner, I think you will absolutely love the content of today's episode, which is all about installing a management team into your business so you no longer have to manage everything. And to do that and to have that conversation about those issues, I've brought in expert Jason Connolly from JMC Legal Recruitment. Now, Jason's been running his recruitment business for many years now. He's also CEO of that business, and he's got a lot of experience when it comes to putting in place the right management team inside your business, what you should do, what you should not do, what are some of the mistakes that you might do if you try and do it the wrong way, and he'll give you some advice about how to go about doing things the right way. Plus, he'll even share how you should look inside your business for existing talented, high performing team members who could be exactly the kind of management and leaders that your business needs. So, I'll be getting into that with Jason right after this message. And this message that's coming up is all about a business report that I've created just for business leaders and owners like you.
Are you a free-thinking business leader? We have a report you must see. It's a personalized report that reveals your strengths and weaknesses. Head to interstellar.report and get your free report today. Test yourself at interstellar.report.
Today, I'm joined by Jason Connolly from JMC Legal Recruitment. Now, Jason's done lots of things throughout his career. He's worked in the police, he's worked in cabin crew, and now he's got his own recruitment business. In fact, a recruitment consultancy which works with law firms in the UK and the US. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, we're glad you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business then, and your very interesting background?
Yeah, sure. I started JMC Legal Recruitment 4 years ago. It's now become the UK's number one recruitment agency for lawyers in the UK. So it's been quite the roller coaster ride since starting only 4 years ago to hold such a prestigious accolade now. But we've done extremely well. We recruit lawyers all over the UK, not just in the UK. We also do a fair amount and a growing amount of work in the US. It's been a roller coaster ride getting here. My career has been one of many highs and many lows. And it's not been an easy journey to get to where we are, but we're doing fantastically well. We're an agency that's very different to how most recruitment owners run their businesses. We give everyone a real high investment model, really a lot of mentoring. And we've got a multi-million-pound turnover, so we're doing fantastically even through the pandemic. We've managed to still fill roles, and we've even been having things like virtual inductions, virtual training. So we've very much been at the forefront of technology through this. But yeah, my career started off, I was 16 years old, wasn't in a particularly great school. I didn't like the school. It was a rough comprehensive, actually ranked in the bottom 5 worst secondary schools in the country. It was bulldozed down the year after I left, and I can assure you no one was shackling themselves to the gates to try to prevent it from being demolished. But I didn't enjoy school. I found it was more sort of a game of survival than one of inspiration and leaving me feeling empowered by education. That was certainly not the case.
I think I can really empathise with you with that experience, Jason.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy my school days at all. When I was at school, I was really into performing magic, and it was something that I really got a passion for. I became really good at it. I became really good at all the things that you need to do to be good at a magician, like misdirection. I was an expert at. So when I was during my study leave at school, I chose not to study. And chose that time to perform magic and busk. And I was busking in Covent Garden in London. After I left school, that was what I did. I worked part-time in a kitchen, but more my time was filling up doing magic work. So I was performing pretty much 6 days a week, and then the restaurant job fell away. And I was even doing magic when I wasn't in the kitchen out the front. So got signed up by an agency. Didn't want to get signed up by an agency at first. I thought, why would I want an agency to take 40% of my money? This doesn't sound right. I'm bursting with work. I couldn't possibly get any more work. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing with running a company, though. It was all very much an alien concept. But I'd done magic for a few years, traveled over the world doing that. The agency I was with were really good. They entered me into a lot of different competitions, which I've done really well at. And then I got to 18 years old and became fascinated with the airline that is Virgin Atlantic. And I flew with them out to Vegas because I performed in Vegas for a bit. And I absolutely loved them. And I decided I want to work for this airline. But despite the fact that I was like confident performing on stage, I wasn't that much of a confident person. I was confident in some regards, but definitely not in others. I wasn't very good at writing. I've never been great at maths. Even now, I'm still rubbish at maths, and you'll find me using a calculator to do the most basic sums. And academia has never been a strong point, but what I did have at that age was bags of charisma in some regards. I was a performer, not necessarily. That doesn't necessarily mean you're confident in your personal life.
No. Well, it's interesting with the whole like on stage personality that a lot of performers have, that it's actually complete contrast to what's going on backstage. Yeah,
indeed it is. And so I applied to Virgin. I remember getting my mum. I grew up from a very I wouldn't say it was a poor background. I would say it was a very, very, very modest kind of. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mum had me when she was 18. My dad didn't want to know, and I'd never had a lot of money growing up. So even when I started earning a bit of money in magic, I remember, my God, I'm earning £50 for a night in a restaurant. And, I was actually probably being highly underpaid at that point. But, that was besides the point. I was 16 years old with loads of, cash that I'd never seen before. So I applied to Virgin and I got an interview, and I turned up there. I was really young. And I remember looking around in one of these group interview processes thinking, I am the youngest one here by a long way. And they done that thing where they kind of went through all the different, you had to introduce yourself, do these different exercises. Then everyone got told to leave. They split everyone off into rooms, and then it became down to me and this other lady. And I thought, I haven't really noticed her in the interview process. I don't know if we got through, and it turned out we got through. I got the job. And I worked at Heathrow on the check-in desks, which was so much fun. Before the days of the DIY self-check-in, it was the days when you'd arrive at the airport 4 hours early because you'd be in the Virgin Atlantic queue for an hour. Checking in your bags for your summer holidays, and it was good fun, really good fun. And I met some really great friends there, and it brought my confidence out. Virgin, you weren't able to hide behind a rock. I remember on the first day sitting there on the check-in desks, a lady walks up to me and says, "So, are you gay or are you straight then?" And I thought, what the bloody hell is this bold woman? And then I went, "Oh, well, I'm gay." And she went, "Oh, you're fitting just fine here, love. Don't worry about that." That was my experience of Virgin. And I stayed there for a few years, then got wowed by the police, and they were doing a big recruitment drive for the 2012 Olympics. They needed more police officers than ever. So I joined. I don't have any regrets. I do wish I'd stayed at Virgin longer. I think I had the grass is greener on the other side syndrome at a young age. So I went headfirst into 6 months of absolutely, I don't even know how to describe it really. Let's just say 6 months of intense training into the police. And then found myself on the mean streets of Soho in West London. Sorry, not Soho. What am I on about? Southall. I wish it was Soho. Southall, much different area.
Very different.
Yeah, it's for anyone that hasn't been there, it's not the world's most desirable place.
So I'll just for people listening to the show, Soho is like quite a trendy area of London. There's a lot of cool places. There's still some grimier areas, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening. So it'd be quite a nice place to work, perhaps as a police officer, where Southall was a bit more suburban, should we say?
Well, the clue is in the title, the whole bit at the end. So done that for a few years. Didn't have a great time in the police. Didn't enjoy my time there. I saw things I thought I should never have to see. And that wasn't in terms of the actual incidents I was turning up to. That was more from an internal perspective, and just didn't enjoy my time there. So I stuck it out for about 4 years. And then I thought, well, I need to leave and find something that I actually am going to be empowered by. And I kept seeing adverts of recruitment. I thought, well, I can talk to people. Didn't really know what the job actually involved. I think it's kind of a mystery from people on the outside looking in on what you actually have to do this job. And then went into the recruitment industry. Had many, many knocks. Nearly lost all my money in my house. And nearly lost everything. Built up a lot of money and then lost it all. Built it up again, then nearly lost it all a second time. But I was in the recruitment industry for about 5 years before I started JMC, which is the company I have now, which, as I said, is doing well. So that is an absolute kind of fast track through where I was to where I am.
What a diverse range of experiences, though.
Yeah.
Working from Virgin Atlantic to being a beat cop in Southall. I mean, that must be what a jump, really. And the environment, and possibly the cultural environment as well of who your colleagues and so on as well. I imagine that would have been quite
It was,
as well.
it was from vibrancy and all things camp and all things colourful to black and white outfit, starched shirt, no hairs on back of neck, shouted at on the parade square at 7 a.m. every morning, unless the the crease in your trouser wasn't precision like down the centre. So it was a glamour to a very different type of setting indeed.
Don't miss out on future episodes. Be sure to subscribe to our show and keep notifications on.
One of the reasons we've got together today in this podcast episode is to talk about business owners, and specifically about some of the problems that business owners are having with their businesses.
Yeah.
And one of those being probably work-life balance. Like a big one that I think a lot of business owners start their business, and when they do, they think, oh, at last I get to choose when I go home. I get to choose how many weeks I work a year. But then the reality sets in, and the work-life balance isn't as good. Is that something personally you can identify, that struggle for work-life balance?
No, I think I came into running my own business very much with my eyes open. I think, if anything, I was kind of thinking from day one it was going to be a 7-day-a-week operation. Work-life balance never even came into my mind. Maybe what did come into my mind was, maybe I get to have a glass of wine at lunch or something like that. But no, I was the opposite. And actually, I worked myself into the absolute ground and became very, very unwell a couple of years into running my business. So, I work-life balance was never kind of on the cards for me. I worked all hours when I worked for other people anyway. My level of drive, has always been, I'm going to do what I need to do. Don't get me wrong. I work smart, not always. So I think I work smart and I work hard. And I think there is a difference. A lot of people don't work smart. But no, if anything, I was so much on the other end of the spectrum that, I got very ill, and it took me out the game for 6 months because I ran myself into the ground.
That's interesting. So the lack of maybe awareness around that issue coming down the line kind of led to it. So so there might be people listening to the podcast right now who probably think, I'm fine with working hard. There's not going to be any problems with that. But actually, if you let that situation creep, you could end up burning out. So work-life balance is a thing, whether that's whether that's something you need to worry about right now, or maybe it's something that's going to come down the road to you very fast, or slowly you'll creep up. And one of my fears is that that I would suddenly wake up, my son would be 18, and I think I'd missed out on loads of time with him because I'd just be so consumed by my business. And I think that's the kind of the risks that we face as business owners, that we're so consumed and absorbed by what we do that we can just bypass our personal lives and the joy joy that can bring.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons I want to talk to you today is I know because you're a specialist in recruitment, is you've got great ideas about how people can build successful uh, management teams.
Mm.
And what are the problems that lead to someone needing to do that? We've talked about work-life balance, but are there other things that would need to be
Yeah,
doing that?
I think just to reverse the conversation slightly, I think work-life balance is really, really important because, when I say I got ill, I got very, very, very unwell. And that was because I pushed myself and pushed myself and pushed myself and pushed myself to get to always the next milestone, the next place. And I think people just need to be. I had to learn the lesson the very hard way, and I hope a lot of people don't have to learn it that way because it really took a toll on my family as well. But I think that from the get go, it was always I need to make a success of this. And even when I got a couple of $100,000 in the bank, I would think to myself, okay, right, I'm going to work to the next milestone. Right, I'm going to get to 500,000, and then I would go right, and then it just never seemed to stop. But I think that to advance the conversation further towards the senior management team, for me, I started the business by myself, so I never really knew what a senior management team was, and I think also interestingly, I never had a business mentor or was part of a business community. And a lot of people say, well, look, I spoke to someone, I've had a mentor, someone trained me. I think asking for help never seemed like an option for me. It wasn't even something that I even never contemplated because I wish I had and actually said, right, okay, let's seek out some people who can give me advice. I just went full steam into it because I don't know, asking for help has never necessarily been something that I've done throughout my life. I think maybe mainly because my mum probably had me young. There's a certain level of bond there, which I get when I think a parent has you young, where you kind of feel like you're the parent at times when you get to about 8 years old. And I think I just kept going. So I wish I'd kind of reached out to people sooner because actually there's so many amazing people out there who are all too willing to help if you ask the right questions. But I think where my senior management team came from was out of the fact that I was getting out of my depth quickly and I was having a company that was bringing in a balance sheet of, had hundreds of thousands of pounds coming in through the door, and I didn't know what the bloody hell I was doing. And I was getting myself into all sorts of messes with tax, and I just didn't have a clue. So I knew that I needed experts, but what I knew that I needed was people I could trust. And what I think I spent a long time doing was not necessarily having the right advisors. And really, what a senior management team is someone to bounce ideas off of. It's someone to bring different specialisms to the table, different perspectives, and specialists in their field. Because I think that's the thing that entrepreneurs take for granted is the fact that you can turn your hand to anything and you can kind of get a business up and running. And you take for granted the fact that you might do the accounts or the bookkeeping or the reconciling or whatever it is that you're doing. But actually, that's something that someone's been trained in normally for a substantial amount of time in order to do that job. And I think that, I got to a stage where I was still managing to even run the accounts and reconcile myself when it was becoming £1 million business. And, I just remember one day walking, to my finance director who I've got now, and he just looked at me like, are you bloody mad? There's companies out there that turn over 1 million, which have got full back office support. So I got a senior management team in place and it made my life a lot easier. When you have a big team of staff, you really need people you can trust, people who have got your back, because it can be a very lonely place at the top of a company. You don't have necessarily people to everyone comes to you with questions, then it gets to you and there's kind of okay, right, we've bottlenecked here. I'm the one giving advice back down. Yes, I'll bounce ideas of people sideways, but if you don't have enough people sideways and you don't have enough advisors around you, then you're going to at some point make a mistake. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So you need to get those people in place. But it's not it's not an easy thing to do, to find the right people. Finding valuable, really good people is hard.
Yeah, and I think something you said really struck out to me there. and that's that you. It's tempting to take on everything, isn't it? As a business owner, right? Because you can do it, because you've got that kind of can-do attitude. You think,
You have this singular attitude, which is, I can do it better. Everything I do is not going to be done better because I really care about it. And then you get into that kind of frame of mind where actually you don't let anyone do anything. And that's
mm,
how you don't grow your business. And that's how a lot of people have stayed as sole traders for most of their life, because it's the fear of giving stuff away or giving
yeah,
stuff over. And really, what people should be doing is growing their businesses as quickly as possible so the business can function without you. That's how you get work-life balance. But it's much easier said than done, and it's difficult.
yeah, it is. But I think that DIY mentality is a massive dark force that is kind of restricting the growth of many businesses and affecting that work-life balance, as you say. And if you can get yourself out of that situation with that DIY do it all kind of mentality, then there's lots of opportunities for people to go after as well. And you can stop, for example, you can stop being the bottleneck in your business, right? Rather than everything having to come through you the whole time, you being the decision maker on everything, just getting rid of a load of decisions and let someone else do that can really accelerate your business and also get more out of your team, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think that I think I've got a lot of opinions in business which are different to those of kind of a lot of business owners, and are different to. I don't necessarily think I'm the conventional business owner in a lot of different ways, but you want to get the best out of your team. You don't want to, what a lot of people do is they manage a team. They manage who wants to be managed. No one likes being managed. They want to be led. And there's a big difference between a leader and a manager. I don't want managers. I want leaders. And, that's what I look for in my business, because even the word managing, it has negative connotations to it. People, don't like that. And, the best way to get, the most out of any team is to inspire them. If you inspire and motivate people, you won't have to manage them because they just want to do the job.
Mm, mm.
But a lot of business owners don't do that. They hit people with the figures stick. They whack KPIs on them. They have whiteboards in their face showing them constantly what they must do. How patronizing to have a
Mm.
whiteboard constantly staring you in the face. So I don't. My beliefs about how to run a business are different. And in recruitment, we're a terrible industry for bringing people in, letting them sink or swim, giving them no training. It's absolute madness how the vast majority of the recruitment industry still operates. It's so draconian and old school, and that of the 1990s double glazing salesman tactic on the doorstep. It just doesn't work anymore. People don't want to be sold to. They just want to be given advice, being given, an honest service, and just not being lied to. Whereas,
Mm.
unless you're familiar with the recruitment industry, you won't know what the hell I'm going on about. But it's an industry that just doesn't train people well, which is why we've risen so quickly and we've become such a disruptor in the market, because we actually do the job properly, and there's actually not a lot of us out there.
I only know the recruitment industry's reputation from its general reputation. Not,
See, even you don't know the recruitment industry, and you've got an opinion on the recruitment industry. That's how
well,
bad the reputation is.
yeah, it's kind well, I'm open-minded, but I've heard, yeah, you hear like boiler room kind of, it's very sales orientated, like a car dealership kind of sales
We're
orientated
honestly
mentality.
nothing like that in the way that we operate. Don't get me wrong, we've got a room full of very, very motivated people and a room full of people who are passionate about the job that they do. But we just tell the truth.
Mm.
It's
Well, that's good.
be honest. That's what you
Yeah,
got to
I
do.
love that. So what if you are going to put a management team in place, and
Yeah.
let's say a leadership team, and let's forget this management word and say you're going to put a leadership team in. What makes a successful leadership team then?
I think you've got to have a team that, I don't like people that, are just going to tell me yes all the time. I want people that are actually going to give me an honest opinion and people that aren't going to be afraid to say what they think. And, I think I don't think a leadership team is something that just comes into place and it slots there and it's all perfect. It takes time. Even my relationship with my finance director has taken the best part of a year for us to really understand how each other works. Because at the start he didn't realize that I didn't know certain things and he would assume that I was more knowledgeable than I was. And it's taken us it's taken us a year of working together. Now I think we're a well-oiled machine. It's the same as my marketing manager, a year of working together until there was real cohesion, not because I'm some sort of a diva in the office and I'm hard to work with, but it takes time to form a good relationship. So I don't think anyone is going to necessarily overnight get in a great leadership team because it takes time. And I think that if you rush it, you can get it wrong. But I think that what you really need to do, first of all, is think, what is the gap that you've actually got? What is it that you actually need? What is it that you've not got? Or sometimes you won't even know what you haven't got that you need. The problem can be even deeper, but you might need someone to identify the points in the business that aren't going so well, the points that aren't going right, and the points of improvement, because you're not going to know everything. There was lots of things that are picked up on that I thought we were doing well in, but actually we wasn't doing so well in. And, it's been educational for me. But I think, first of all, you've got to identify the gap. Once you've identified the gap, you've got to think, is this person a value adding person? And what I mean by that is, are they going to add value to the business? And that's how I look at everybody. That's how I remunerate people. That's the ethos I've got, is how much value do you add to the business? So you need to look for value adding people. And then once you've kind of identified the gaps, it should grow from there. But your senior leadership team is a team that you should trust implicitly. They have your back. They're on your side. Yes, they've got, and their best interests are that of the business, not themselves, not their pay. Their best interest is that of the business. And it takes time to find these people. When you find a great person, don't let them go. Hold on to them. Bring them on board. Don't be greedy. Don't just keep all the equity for yourself in a business and never give an ambitious person a route to get to the top as well. Because what you're going to find is that person will leave you. That person will leave you. They will leave your business, and it will be harmful. So once you've got these people, make sure you hang on to them, because, I work with businesses every single day in the legal sector and beyond that tell me, well, we've lost this person. Well, why did you let them leave? Well, I didn't know they were leaving. Well, why not? How can you not know someone's going to leave? And, our retention rate is extremely good because, we make sure that we treat people right. But, a senior leadership team isn't the magic wand to absolutely everything in the business and getting it right. It's a combination of a whole load of things. You can't value the senior leadership team and then the rest of the way down there's fractions, divides, and people who aren't happy. Everyone has got an important role in a business, whether it's the person who cleans up at night or the person that makes the big decisions at the top. If that person wasn't valuable, they wouldn't have a job. They have a job because there's value to be added.
What we're really talking about is there being an overall the right culture across all parts of the business being in place and then impacting all of those people.
Head to interstellar.show and find all the resources mentioned in today's episode. Plus, discover powerful training which will help you grow, work, and live smarter. Visit interstellar.show today and begin your adventure.
If I'm a business owner, though, and let's say I want to really step back and not do so much at all on a day-to-day basis, what do I need to start looking for and thinking about in terms of that leadership team that I put in place?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you need to get the business functioning without you. So you're going to need to appoint someone into a leadership position. I'm always dubious of bringing in people new to a business to oversee a business. I think that you need to know the business. You need to get the dressing room on side. And I personally don't bring in, senior people on top of people already there, unless there was kind of a side need that wasn't fulfilled by the general population and the skill set that we have. But, that's my personal viewpoint. I do work in a different industry to a lot of people. But if you want to get out of a business, you need to find those skill gaps that you've got, and you need to create a pyramid-like structure, and a good, reporting system. A good way of people being able to have visibility: is the job done? What data do you collect? And you need to have a way of how do you quantify success in your business. But if you want to get out of your business as quickly as possible, then you need to, make sure that it runs without you. Test it, road test it, go away for a week, turn off your mobile phone and your emails, and see, does the business actually survive without you? A lot of people, sometimes people, might think the business doesn't function without them, when actually it does, because they're scared of letting go. And maybe they've gone from so many years of being needed to then not being needed, and then they can't let go once they are let go. So, but my viewpoint is, I couldn't imagine not being involved in my business. So I find it very difficult to answer that question, because maybe because it just feels so, at the moment, so far away for me necessarily to just step back from what I'm doing.
But here's an interesting,
Yeah.
perspective to point on that is, shouldn't we, as business owners who are thinking about the business picture anyway, make sure our businesses can work without us, right? You don't want it to, if it like something like I get run over tomorrow and I'm not around for 6 months because I've got my both my arms and legs broken, then someone else is going to, or the team are going to need to be able to manage the business without me. Surely that's kind of, if we want to build these bigger, more sustainable businesses, that's something we've got to think about as well.
Yeah, indeed. I do agree with that. And, I think future planning your business is important. And, it's something that's, does pass my mind as well. But I think it's not always as easy as just walking away. To get an actual business that can function fully without the leading person is highly difficult. You've got to have the right leadership team in place, and that doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that you can put together. Even now, I'm still in a position where I'm still putting the pieces together on my business to get it, more future proof. And maybe Jason not, maybe with me not involved. But it's difficult and it takes time. And I've helped lots of law firms do it over the years, and it can be done. And a business should run without you. It's not smart for you to have a situation where the business doesn't work without you, because you need to exit. But it takes time. It isn't, especially if you've just started the business by yourself and you're growing it out, you're going to make mistakes along the way as well. And you're going to have to get the business to a point where it doesn't need you at all. That's not easy. That is difficult, but it can be done.
Sure. I guess the thing is, though, we have to start somewhere and project a point further down the road where we might be at that point. And I think you made a really good point earlier about having the right person or people inside the business anyway, who could be the future top level leaders of the business. And maybe that's the thing to think about if you've got a big enough business, is to have those people in those roles who slowly over time can take on more responsibility to such a point you could step back, right?
Yeah, indeed. The reason why I don't bring in external leaders necessarily, I have when it's come to other aspects of the business that we don't have expertise in. But the reason why I don't like doing it is because I think it upsets people as well. If someone comes in and they've got aspirations to be that person, when I'm looking at people, when I interview them, I'm kind of asking them questions about, what's your future aspirations? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Because it's not down to that person to prove it to me. It's down to me to mentor and help that person get to where they actually want to be. It's a partnership. If the partnership isn't equal and that person isn't giving me enough, then, then it's not going to work. And, I'll be having a frank conversation with that person. But you want to bring people up from within the business. One, because, there's no person who knows the business better than people who already work there. And when you bring in someone external, it does take time. I'm not saying that's the case in every business, but if you can raise up your own talent internally, that, you're going to find you've got really good leaders, people who know the business from all different aspects, people who will have worked in different departments, and you can't buy in that experience always.
I think that's really smart, actually. But training your people up from within, because the reality anyway, right, is that most people are capable of a huge amount. There's only maybe 3% of jobs in the world which can't be done by everyone, or 3% of people who are not capable of doing a lot of jobs. So I think people are capable of a huge amount. Often businesses uh, don't invest or look with open eyes at their team and see the hidden pearls that are there, really, that could, with the right encouragement and confidence, could really shine and take some weight off the leader's back.
Yeah, there's always those people, but it's a lot of companies don't invest in people, or what they do is they give people off the shelf training solutions, which is, here's a training course, here you go, here's an online portal, go and get self trained. And then,
Mm.
companies wonder why, if people don't feel invested in these days, it's not about money all the time why people move jobs. Actually, money is one of the least reasons a lot of the time why people move jobs. It's about feeling fulfilled. It's about feeling invested in. It's about feeling that someone cares about you. And, that a lot of companies don't give that. And that's why people leave. And that's why we keep taking people from other employers, because of the fact that people are invested in. But, it's not, leaders aren't built overnight. It takes time.
Mm.
And, we've got people that we are training up to be leaders. But it's kind of a slow transition to lead people. What a lot of companies do, this is what they do. Someone starts doing well at their job. Okay, this person's billing money, put them as manager, because this person makes money, they will make other people make money. That's the wrong way to do it, because just because someone makes money in their job or they're very good at their job, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a great people leader, or, if you want to call it manager. But, a lot of people just assume, okay, this person's a great functioning person, let's stick them as a manager. And that happens all over the place. There's so many businesses. Whereas actually, the person who builds the most isn't always the best leader. And actually, quite a lot of the time throughout my career, I found that it's not the person who bills the most, because the person who bills the most is so worried about billing and billing and billing and billing. They'll probably not give the person as much time because they're so focused on their income and their billing. Normally, a leader is someone that's, sometimes got a bit more time for people. The sort of person who's actually got 10 minutes, won't always look at their own interests. They'll think about other people. And, a leader's quality and a mentor's quality is normally different to that of a top performer. But a lot of companies don't do it like that. Then they wonder why the team's fragmenting and it's not doing well, because, the leader isn't leading it in the right way. And everything in every business does stem from the top. If you've got a bad culture, work your way further up the food chain, you'll find the kink somewhere.
I 100% agree. Is the culture is from, I think the culture comes from the top down, really. You set the ultimate owner or leader of the business sets that culture and drives it through. And if they're not driving that culture through, then they're really not
Yeah.
shaping the business like they should, or empowering the rest of the team to shape the business. So I think I think it makes so much sense, and it really resonates with me, the idea of just because someone's good at one particular thing, that like recruiting them isn't necessarily going to be the right way forward. What kind of things should leaders be doing to level up the confidence and capabilities of their teams then, do you think?
It's a very broad question, but I think that to get people up the ranks, first of all, you've got to have a good. I think the thing is with a culture is you can't. If you've got a rubbish culture, it's really hard to change a culture. You can copy someone's business idea, and you can copy their product, you can copy whatever it is, the service they offer, but you can't copy a culture. If you've got a bad culture, it's really hard to change it. And, my culture has been really important to me in my business, and it's been something that I've been very protective of. I've had times where I've had a really big billing individual, but an absolute troublemaker who was upsetting people, and it wasn't worth the £250,000 a year to put up with that level of upset. So I think you've got to have a culture, and I think to get people leveled up, you've got to really understand them, not just at the point where they work for you, but when you're interviewing these people, don't just interview them for the job you're interviewing them for. Think about, where could this person be? How can we get this person up? What's their aspirations? What is it they want to do? And actually understanding that person. Everyone who comes in through my door, I'm always asking them questions about where they want to be, where do you want to go? Tell me about that, because I want to get that understanding of what their aspirations are long term, early doors, so I can understand. What I also want to understand is if that person's aspirations change, and they've 6 months in, a year in, and their motivation changes. Why is it changed? Why are they thinking a different thing? I think a great listening this is, it comes down to understanding. It's, you got to understand the people that work for you. You can't level them up if you don't understand them. If you understand them and actually care about that person as a money rather than a big cog in your money machine or a little cog in your massive money machine, every cog has a purpose. If it wasn't a cog there, the machine would stop turning. People, need to actually care about their staff and listen to them. And then once you listen to them, yes, you can have an appraisal system and however that works, but actually spend time with your people and really invest in them. That's the only way to get them up. There's no shortcuts. There's no, send them off to read 6 management books on Amazon. They're going to come back an amazing leader and be great at management. No, it doesn't work like that. If it was that easy, that's what everyone would do. You actually need to, spend time with the people and listen to them. And then guess what? If you give that level of investment to one person, what does that person do? Oh, they give the same investment down. Oh, now we're starting to look like a pyramid. Now that's more interesting. So, and that's the way you've got to do it. There's no shortcuts to this. I think you need to listen to people and understand where their gaps are, what you can improve on, what skill set they've got, what skill set where you want them to be. And it's a partnership, and you've got, if you invest in people, they'll really look after you. And if you look after people, they look after you. But so many businesses get it wrong. They have management processes, protocols, which, do exist in big corporate companies. I understand that there is a time and a place for that. But, if you don't lose the personality of the business through that of a thought. I see so many small businesses running their businesses not in the right way. And, yes, okay, they make a turnover, but especially when you get things like a pandemic, when you get a pandemic, which is rocking up on your door and you have to switch your business remote. Oh, God, this is different. Now we're not seeing each other. Now this really shows how strong the team are at communicating when they're all in different places. And that's why a lot of businesses have struggled through this time. And we've seen a lot of people arriving at our door as candidates wanting to leave because the business, it isn't the same. It isn't, it was held apart when everyone was in person. But, if you've got a great team, they will ride out through the toughest times. And actually, it's through the toughest times that some of the greatest businesses have made growth.
Yeah, I think that's true. I've certainly noticed that from other business owners that I'm connected with. Yeah, that it's interesting how some people rise and some people fall through this time, and communication is key. And I think actually coming back to communication, I think there's one powerful question that you can ask people, which is, how do you feel about X? Right? How does doing this make you feel? What do you feel about this project idea or us doing this? And actually taking the time to listen to your team. Because I think too many people just assume and they're like, oh, this is what we're going to do. This is what the whole business is going to steer towards. And they don't take the time to ask.
Well, I don't think it's even that one question, Andrew. I think it's any question that's an open question. How, what, where, when, why. A lot of managers use do you, would you, and I even struggle to think of closed questions because I'm so used to asking open questions. But, how do you feel? What would you do if this? Why would you do this? Why, how? And it's all those sorts of questions. It's actually asking people open questions and asking them for an explanation, not asking them an open book, closed question. And yeah, how people feel is important. I care about the welfare of the people that work for me very, very much. And, I'm not saying it's been a doddle. We've had people that have had issues and, we stick by people through the good and the bad times as well. And, we don't make people feel awful if, they're having difficulties. We stick by people.
What's just to round things off? What's 3 tips that you can give to any leader to encourage that positive team vibe in place?
Yeah, I think number 1 is listen to people. I think you've kind of summoned nicely put that just now. Listen to people. I think number 2 is make sure you got the right advisors beside you. A very, very good finance person is always very, very important in a business. Make sure you've got that. And number 3 is that's a very good question. I think number 3 is probably make sure you love what you do. Make sure you don't lose that passion and understand when your drivers change. Make sure that you're still celebrating your successes as well, because it's very easy to keep running forward, but you've got to give yourself a bit of praise. There's probably hundreds of lessons I could pass on to people who run businesses now after having and I actually I will add a 4th on there. I think don't be afraid to make mistakes. A mistake is only a failure if you don't learn from it.
That's
So,
true, and that's something you need to give. That's a freedom you need to give to your team as well. If you're going to
mm,
empower them to take work off of you, um, that they actually need to have the freedom to be able to try something and it not work out.
people make mistakes. If it's I know I've made books full of them, probably books after book after book. But I like to think I'd never make the same one twice. And it's actually the failures that teach the biggest lessons. So you've got to, if you've got a culture where someone makes a mistake, they're too afraid to come and tell you. That's not a great culture, and that's only going to cost you in the long run. People should be, you want a team that if there's a problem, they come to you with it, so you know about it, but
Yeah.
and not to the contrary.
Yeah, well, you don't want that culture of blame either, where actually it's not positive and constructive. People are just pointing fingers and then avoiding taking on the next project that comes up because that becomes very negative. But I also think there's a responsibility from the leadership team as well when it comes to thinking about mistakes and perfection, right? I think we can expect too much from what we expect others to do and expect them to do something to a 10 out of 10 ability, when if we lowered our sights slightly and accepted things to be 6 or 7 out of 10, then we'd probably be happier, our teams would probably be happier and more full of confidence, and we'd get more stuff done. Most of the time I think business leaders can procrastinate and slow things down by being too perfectionist about stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult because when it's your own business, you want everything done 10 out of 10 because I think one thing you've got to understand, and this is I think this has been a fairly difficult lesson for me to learn, is if your standard is 10 out of 10, people are never ever you're going to get those superstars that are 9 or 10 out of 10. They don't come along very often. When you do, again, hold on to them, but on the whole, you can only expect a 6 or 7 out of people because they're never going to have the same level of passion that you do because it's your business, and you've got to. If perfection is standing you from moving forward, then you need to query. Well, does it need to be exactly like the way I would do it? I remember when I started recruitment, I was too scared to give any of my clients over because I thought, well, no one's going to do it as well as me. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm never, ever, ever going to move forward unless I'm prepared to part with something. So it's I think you've got to be realistic about your expectations from people, but again, managing expectations is very important. When you're bringing someone into a business, actually tell them what the job involves, tell them what your expectations are. Mismanaging expectations is a massive way to lose clients. It's a massive way to lose staff. You've got to be able to do two things. One, see things from other people's perspective, put yourself in their shoes. The second thing is you've got to manage expectations. Oversell a job, someone comes in, they're disappointed. Make sure you manage expectations properly. And by managing expectations, under promise, over deliver, then people are absolutely happy.
Brilliant. I think that's a great note to end it on. Jason, thanks very much for coming on the Interstellar Business Show today. Really glad to have you here sharing your amazing experience and expertise with us. Where can people connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, sure. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the main platform I use. My name is obviously Jason Connolly. Connolly spelled Connolly. Or you can go to my business's website, which is www.jmc-legal.com. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for being here. So I had a great time talking with Jason today. He's got so much to share about building a management team, and as he suggested, actually it's better to focus on building a leadership team because team members don't want to be managed, they want to be led. And here's some final thoughts about building your management stroke leadership team. Look to get your team on board with the process. Sit down with them, have a meeting, discuss where you're at, what you're trying to do. Get their ideas. Perhaps you're staring at you're missing some amazing ideas for how you can improve your leadership team and get more people on board and taking some of the weight of the decisions and executive type stuff off of your shoulders just by having a meeting with your team and talking to them about who actually wants to take more ownership, who's ready to step up and take more responsibility. But that only comes by you being open enough to have those conversations with your team in the first place. And you might think, well, if I bring all my team together in a meeting and say, look, I really need some help taking ownership of projects and then maybe long term looking at some people in the business taking on more executive roles within the business, your team are not going to see you as weak. In fact, they're going to see you as a very strong person because you've had the courage to bring them all together and you valued them enough to ask for their opinions. So I think it could be a very powerful move for you. On the flip side, you might find when you ask your team members if any of them want to step into executive roles or near executive roles, that some of them are a bit hesitant and they don't really feel like that's what they want to do. And I think that's okay because sometimes when we apply for a job, that's all we want to do, just that job. We don't necessarily want to step up to the next ladder of responsibility. And there might be a myriad of reasons why someone on your team doesn't want to step up right now. If that's the case, then it's probably time to look outside of your business and look at bringing some other people into it. If you're going to do that, though, then obviously the process of getting someone into position of being a leader or being able to run your business will probably take a little bit longer. So do allow for that. Maybe bring them in not as CEO straight away. Maybe bring them in as a lower position, get them used to the business and have that idea of them taking on more and more responsibility and then transitioning at some point to being the main leader of the business, so you can finally take that step back. The last thing you can do is look at bringing in a coach or getting some training to improve the confidence and capabilities of your team, because maybe the reason that your team are hesitant to step forward and put their hands up for more ownership and more responsibility is because they're a bit afraid or they don't believe in themselves or they're lacking confidence, in which case the right kind of coaching or training could do wonders for what your team believe they're capable of doing, and eventually that also might be the key for you stepping back from the business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I had a great time talking with Jason. Thanks again, Jason. And I look forward to seeing you all again for my next episode. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe wherever you're listening to this now. And stay listening for this short message about a business report that I've created just for business owners and business leaders just like you.
Thanks for listening to the Interstellar Business Show. This podcast was sponsored by the Interstellar Report. Ready to discover the powerful forces that influence the success of leaders like you? Head to interstellar.report and grab this brilliant resource. A personalized report which reveals your strengths and weaknesses in 6 key areas. Visit interstellar.report and discover the insights, roadblocks, and opportunities you've been missing. Plus, get free personalized training that will help you grow, work, and live smarter. Go to interstellar.report today and start your adventure.